which means football games are going to be less plays and less plays, and I don't like it. And I just want to put it on record right now that it was the coach of the Georgia Bulldogs who likes less football, not the coach of the Buckeyes. He likes more football. Hey, it's Juck. Today, a ridiculous coaching ranking that disrespects my man Ryan Day. Michigan's Will Johnson with a big admission and some new notes from practice just a couple of days away from Saturday's big scrimmage. Let's get it. And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. And welcome in. Yesterday we discussed that NFL kickoff rule that they're going to be implementing next year on a trial basis. And today the College Football Rules Committee said they are in fact monitoring how that's going to go in the NFL. And I would imagine that they're going to try to push that through if it works well with the NFL very quickly. So if we don't see it, I mean, we'll probably see it the year after, if not the year after that, if it goes good in the NFL. But Kirby Smart, who is a big-time member on that College Football Rules Committee, said, I think the NFL is the model. They know what they're trying to do, and they're going to get it right. Now, I like Kirby Smart. I've always liked Kirby Smart. I certainly respect him. When I listen to him talk about the problems that are going on with the game right now and the difficulties in running a staff and running a roster, his biggest issue is he's thrown his hands up and said, just tell me who's going to be on my roster, please. Change this around so I can just know who's going to be on my roster, and I'll deal with everything else, like whatever else you throw at me. Just let me have a set roster from here to here so I know who's on my roster for this year. So he's been big in trying to get a lot of these dates changed that have to do with the transfer portal and such. And I respect him and I like him for all that. But I don't like that he was one of the guys that really pushed hard on that rules committee for that rule last year with the clock stoppage rule after first downs that effectively took 7 plays off a game. And I hate that. I think it's terrible. I think it's a slippery slope. That was not done for anything with TV or the time games take. That was done to limit numbers of plays in the game of football per game. They wanted less plays per game for player safety because they added more on the back end of the playoff. And I just think that is a silly thing to do when there are only, 6 to 8 teams that are playing extra games in the playoff. Everybody else is playing the same amount of games. So you change the rule for all of college football in 134 teams because 8 teams are playing a couple extra games. And I just don't like it. And I see that, I mean, if you're going to take the first step to make football safer by limiting the number of plays in football, they've already done that. That was the first step towards that. So if player safety is less football, where does it go from there? I'm all for, rules, whatever. You want to make rules for player safety, I'm with it. I don't like the way some of them are enforced. And we talked forever about ejections with targeting. Like that was bad. That was really bad. But when we talk about making football safer by playing less football, I just don't like it. I can't get behind it. And just for the record, it was the coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, not the Ohio State Buckeyes, who likes less football. He likes less football. We like more football up here. But when we talk about the new rule being proposed for the coaches, the American Coaches Association, they are in favor of this rule. And this is unlimited coaches on the staff. So any GA, any analyst, any person who's in recruiting, anybody they can coach. They can all coach. It doesn't matter. You're on the staff, you can coach. But you still can only have the 11 that are designated that go out and recruit. But those designated ones, so they can be anybody, which means for Ohio State, if this goes through, and it likely will, you can now take Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, who hate recruiting and just want to do their coordinating, and give those to somebody else, which is a great thing for the Buckeyes. And all in all, if you're a blue blood program, this is a great thing for you. This is not a great thing for mid-tier to low-tier programs, because even if they can fill those extra positions to have an assistant defensive line coach, an assistant offensive line coach, wherever else you want to put them, special teams, D-back, wherever else you want to put those extra positions, the Ohio States and Alabamas and Georgias and Texases of the world are going to get really high-level coaches in those positions. which is going to be a big advantage. And hey, the coaches are all behind it because it's going to open up more availability at higher profile jobs for the coaches, so they can all move up. And but it's not going to be. I really don't like when I see rules that are like, okay, this is going to be a rich get richer type of rule, even though obviously it's going to benefit the team that I love. I just, I'm more for the health of the game kind of guy because I want the game to continue to stay the way it is and be healthy. And I don't like massive disparities, and I don't want to see that. But I don't think this will be a massive one. It's just if you add a bunch of little ticky-tack things like this on and on over time, NIL is a massive one. Just look at a team like, I don't know, a Michigan State, and you get NIL, and then you get rules like this. And, it's just the gap between you, who can potentially jump up and be a playoff team once in a blue moon, and an Ohio State and a Michigan just gets bigger and bigger with every one of these kind of things that come out. So something I'm not really crazy about. But what I did find hilarious was in an article I read today about this rule, the NCAA came out and said, with everything going on with NIL and the court cases, this should ease the burden of enforcement, because apparently this was a hard rule to enforce. And we've heard people say before this was a hard one to enforce, and that is what I mean is the GAs who are there at practice and all around from not coaching. It was a hard thing to enforce, and essentially you were relying on the compliance department at the universities to police themselves on this for the most part. But I thought that was a really funny line because the NCAA can't enforce anything with NIL, so I have no clue what that even means, that this is going to make it easy with NIL and court cases going on. It's pretty much the only thing you're enforcing anymore. That and pictures for edits. I don't know what else their job is at this point, because it certainly isn't NIL. They can't enforce anything. I got to show you this tweet here that went around here. So today, apparently Joey Galloway tweeted this out from practice, which he wasn't supposed to do. And this tweet went around, and there are some people just absolutely clowning Ryan Day and Julian Sayin and how Ryan Day can't develop quarterbacks. And look at this, Ohio State's still struggling at quarterback. And I'll put this tweet up here. But listen, man, this is a completion, okay? This is a completion and the offense wins. And somehow everybody thought this was a pick. But if you slow it down here, you can see the DB slamming his hands into the ground, and the offense comes and celebrates. And I just can't believe how much everybody jumped the gun on this, so much so that they were going and clowning Ryan Day. And, hey, you just can't get enough of this stuff, man. College football. But a really interesting day today as the Woody got to talk to the tight ends and the defensive linemen. Man, this program is in a good space. We heard from a lot of guys looking to break out and get some playing time, like Jason Moore, 6'6", 305 D tackle. Kenyatta Jackson, 6'5", 245 edge. Jelani Thurman, 6'6", 260 tight end. It's crazy, man. None of these dudes are starters at Ohio State. I went to the national championship back in 2012, right? Alabama, Notre Dame. It was the year that we had the undefeated season, and we had a postseason ban because we didn't try to give ourselves a self-imposed ban the year before, went down and played Florida, and Notre Dame ended up being one that year. We could have played them in the national championship if we didn't have that ban, and it would have been an absolute layup national championship because that was not even one of Brian Kelly's best Notre Dame teams. And Alabama absolutely mollywopped them. But the point is, when I was at that game, it was just so impressive to see Alabama's team next to Notre Dame's team. The starters were fairly similar. Notre Dame, maybe 70% of their starters looked like it could stack up with most of Alabama. But the rest of Notre Dame's traveling roster, no, absolutely not. Alabama, from man one to man however many were on that traveling roster, they all looked the same. I mean, they were all just beasts, and that is what this roster at Ohio State looks like now. It looks like from one to all the way to the end, top 1 to 200 players, and they just all look phenomenal. When you get guys like this coming out and talking, not even starters, guys we talk about like, man, these dudes haven't played yet. these guys could play anywhere, anywhere. It's amazing. It's amazing and it's awesome. But they had some things to say, and Kenyatta had a rough offseason. Kenyatta Jackson was looking to potentially transfer back to Florida. He's from Hollywood, Florida, went to Chaminade Madonna. That is Jeremiah Smith's high school, if that sounds familiar. And he was an extremely promising prospect coming out, top 100 guy. He's big, he's wiry, he's long. He looks like your prototypical beast edge rusher. But he hasn't played much. And when he has played, he's not been very sound as to, he's not been following his assignment. He's not been where he's supposed to be. And he's just not pleased Larry Johnson enough to make him feel like he's earned his way on. And Kenyatta disagreed. And Kenyatta had some talks with Larry Johnson about it. And apparently they've worked on a new plan. And it sounds like he's in a much better space. He admitted last year that he was thinking he should play more. And he was trying to prove too much that he was the guy. This year, his mantra is it's God's plan, and he's not going to be stressing about it anymore. He said he hasn't gotten as much work this spring as he had in the last springs, and they asked him why. He said, I got to be honest, I don't know. But he mentioned again, it was God's plan. Now, we heard Ryan Day talk about him the other day, saying he needs to believe in himself more and how he's really good when he does believe in himself. And yesterday, or Tuesday, we heard Larry Johnson say something about consistency. He needs to see more consistency out of Kenyatta. So we've not just heard yet anybody say, like, just really, this is good about Kenyatta. Like, whenever a coach says something like those two guys said, like, okay, everything's not quite there. It's not quite going perfect. And we're waiting to hear that. And I'm hoping that we do, because he's got all the physical tools to be a phenomenal player. And we're going to see him a lot this year. And I can't wait, really. The guy needs more playing time, and he needs to try to work out these issues on the field. And when he gets more playing time, because he really needs it, I think a guy like this needs to play more so he can start to feel mentally like he's contributing, and then he becomes, all this negative attitude, the negativity goes away and turns into determination. We've all seen this kind of thing happen with this kind of personality. And he's got an interesting personality, and I'm really rooting for him, and I think he's going to be an excellent force this year. Jason Moore, 3 technique, man. This dude's 6'6", 305. He's absolutely massive, and everybody's been raving about his size. When you listen to Jason Moore, there's nothing very really interesting to report out of his interview today other than what he had to say about himself, which was, I'm just really big. My arms are really long, and it makes it really easy for me. And I love to hear that. So, Hero Canoe, man, this kid is great. He's from a 200-person village in Germany. That's a small town, man. So my oldest son recently graduated, and he started his career in real estate. And while he's learning the ropes in real estate, he's also serving in the evenings at a Dublin restaurant. And Hero has been working there as part of a class that he's taken at school. So my son and Hero have become buddies, and my son says everybody just adores Hero. He's just the greatest guy. But this dude got a scholarship when he was still in Germany to come to the U.S. And he's telling a story saying, I said, okay, I'll do it, but I don't know what my mom will think. How do you say it in English? Flabbergasted. He's just a naturally nice guy, and he said Coach Day had to push to get the nasty out of him, but now he can get it out of him. He also mentioned he was a really good soccer player, and he was recruited by major teams as a goalie, but he said you kind of outgrow the sport at 6'4", 250, and then he made fun of flopping in soccer, called it soft, and said he needed something new in his life. Hero said it, not me. Tight end Bennett Christian talked about his suspension last year. He was suspended all last year for performance-enhancing drugs. He said he got the stuff at GNC. The lesson he learned was not to take anything unless it came straight from the Woody. And I'm stunned that that's a lesson that hasn't been beaten into everyone's program or everyone's head since the time they've been in the program, because there are a ton of substances that are in over-the-counter stuff that are banned by the NCAA. So I count that as just as much of a miss by the staff as it is by Bennett Christian. If in fact that is how it went down, that's just a GNC supplement that he took. Everybody needs to know that, man. I mean, we've known this for years. So that was disappointing to hear, to be honest. I mean, I guess it would have been more disappointing to hear he was taking something illegal, but that was pretty disappointing too, just on the fact that it's so easily avoidable. If you pound into everybody's head, you cannot do that. So anyway, that's really all I heard that was super interesting from the interviews that we got today. G. Scott also talked, and a couple other fellas, but nothing really of note other than the normal stuff you'd expect to hear in spring. Hey, it's Juck, and MyBookie has some free cash for the Juck on Bucks audience. Open up an account today at MyBookie, and we're going to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000 in free bets with the promo code JUCK. If you're new to sportsbooks, this is a good one to start at, and if you're an old vet, they got everything we want. It's very simple to use. You can pull out your winnings instantly, and they have an extensive selection of wagering options, including straight bets, parlay bets across sports, odds boosts, and even free plays pop up every now and again. If you like props, they got a whole slew of those, and these guys even got a casino over at MyBookie. And to let us try that out, they got a $10 casino chip with our promo code JUCK. I like to bet some basketball during the tournament for a little bit of fun. I go a little heavier during football season, but no matter what your sport or your favorite wagering option is, you can find it at MyBookie. So open up your account today at MyBookie with the promo code JUCK, because betting is fun, but betting with somebody else's money is even more fun. Check them out. While the current system of NIL works, we've seen the absolute ideal way to use NIL, and that is to put priority on those seniors and keep them home that final year and fill the positions of need through the portal. And Ohio State did that flawlessly this last offseason. I don't think anybody could deny that. Absolutely picture perfect. They brought in 6 total transfers, and they kept almost the entire senior class from going to the NFL draft. And they had to pay a couple of guys that came out of high school, and that's okay. You know, you got a couple of big dogs like a J.J. Smith or an Edric Houston, and they're going to get some money, and you don't want to lose them after you worked all that time to get them in, so you're going to have to pay them. And there are smaller deals given to the other guys, and that's just what it is now. But what they're not doing is paying money to keep a guy like Mark Fletcher, a running back, from flipping, or things of that nature. So I'm okay with that, and I think the way they've used it is flawlessly, and as someone who donates a lot of money to it, that's the ideal way. I think the returning seniors, that's the best thing that's happened to college football in a very long time. And if we can see that trend continue, not just at Ohio State, but everywhere, it puts us in this situation where this is what killed college basketball. We quit knowing the guys. Like, I used to watch, not just the tournament, like regular season college basketball, because you would know the players. You'd see them for a year, and you'd see them in the tournament, then you'd see them the next year, then you'd see them in the tournament, see them the next year, and you would know them year after year. But this gives us a whole nother opportunity to know college football players for an extra year. When you see guys like a Denzel Burke, this is a high-level draft pick, come back for his senior year. Will Johnson at Michigan, come back for his senior year. And I think it's an excellent thing for college football, and I love it. And I think it's the perfect way to spend that money. So when you look at how Ohio State did it, it was absolutely flawless. Now, Michigan came out with this slogan, built, not bought. And what they're saying is, we bought the players at Ohio State, and they built their players at Michigan, despite the fact that they brought in 9 transfers, and we brought in 6. And Will Johnson, their superstar who just came back, was asked how they kept the core together despite Harbaugh leaving, and he said NIL. So they paid them all to come back. Now, I've got no problem. I don't clown them for that, and I don't fault them for that. That's how you're supposed to spend that money. That's why we donate the money. But I don't like double standards, and I don't like hypocrisy, and there is no group of people who leans more into that than those people do. So I will say this. The transfers that they brought in were not expensive players like Ohio State brought in, but I would contend that the caliber of player Ohio State brought in directly correlates to the caliber of recruit Ohio State brings in, and the caliber of transfer player that Michigan brought in correlates to the caliber of recruit that they can get. They couldn't get those guys that we got. Those transfers didn't just go for the biggest bag. Caleb Downs wasn't going anywhere else but Georgia or Ohio State. That was clear. Julian Sand, Ohio State or USC. He came out and said it right off the rip. Quinshon Judkins doesn't even seem like he entertained anybody else. I want to go to Ohio State. Ohio State made it work. That's it. So I'm sorry that they can't get in on guys like that in the transfer portal, but it is what it is. The point is, you're not built, not bought. You're just as everybody else is. You're no better than anybody else. You're just the same. I cannot stand them. And anytime I can point out their hypocrisy, I will do so. I've been scrolling on the bottom here, this goober Stu Mandel's top 25 coaching ranks. Look, Lance Leopold, Kalen DeBoer, Mike Norvell, Kyle Whittingham, Brian Kelly, Ryan Day, number 7. He put Lance Leopold and DeBoer at 2 and 3 over Ryan Day. Okay, I can live with it. Whatever. Mike Norvell, Kyle Whittingham, Brian Kelly. No, just absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. Mike Norvell, been at Florida State 4 years. He's won 1 ACC championship. Let's not act like he took over some program in shambles. Jimbo was an inept coach. There's no doubt about that. He proved that when he went to Texas A&M. And Norvell took over the program that did not have the cupboard bare. They went absolutely massive in the transfer portal, and they've done so every year he's been there. So they upgraded the talent quickly, and he took them to a 13-0 season last year in the ACC. And the ACC is a garbage conference with one primetime opponent in Clemson who was in a down year. And you're trying to tell me that you would choose that guy let's put it this way. If you were the AD of the University of Texas and you had to make a job, you had to hire a coach to save your job, would you choose Ryan Day or Mike Norvell or Kyle Whittingham? Who would you choose? Listen, I love Kyle Whittingham. I've always loved Kyle Whittingham. I say it all the time. But Kyle Whittingham is content at Utah, and he's a Utah-level coach. He's never challenged himself to move up. He could have. Nobody ever offered him the job, or he never sought it out. I don't know. I don't remember him being up for any big jobs. But I'm sure that had he wanted one, he probably could have pursued it and probably could have gotten one, at least a level up from Utah. But he never did. And he never did because he likes it at Utah, and that's fine. And that's great, and I like coaches like him. But you always have a built-in excuse at a program like Utah. He's won 2 Pac-12 championships in 10 years, and he won them in 21 and 22 when the Pac-12 was the weakest it's ever been, ever in the history of the conference. I mean, just dreadful. And you guys remember, it was so bad. And Kyle, I was happy for him, and I still am. But he's not a better coach than Ryan Day. He's not. And neither is Mike Norvell. And if we want to get into the nitty-gritty, neither is Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is like 3-10 against top 10 schools. Ryan Day's record against top 10 schools absolutely blows his away. Ryan Day's record, when you stand back and you look at that record, with 3 playoff appearances, 2 Big Ten championships in 5 years, his record against top 10 teams, it's staggering, ridiculously high. It's top 20, or it's 8-7 against top 10. Against top 25 teams, it's staggering. Way better than Brian Kelly's. And Brian Kelly also shouldn't. Here's the thing: when you put Kalen DeBoer and Lance Leopold up at 2 and 3, you're obviously valuing the lower level championships that they won. So Kalen DeBoer won 3 NAIA championships, and Lance Leopold won 6 Division IIIs at Wisconsin Whitewater. So Brian Kelly won 2 Division II national championships. Why is he not getting those, jumping him up? It's just the logic and the standards and the criteria he's using are all over the place here. And I just prefer consistency. Show me your criteria. My criteria is always this. If I am the AD somewhere, who am I going to hire? Boom. That's the best coach. That's it. And Ryan Day, in this case, is the guy I'm hiring over Brian Kelly, Mike Norvell, and Kyle Whittingham. And it's not particularly close. Ryan Day has shown us that he can run a behemoth program, a program that's at the top of the sport, run it very well, and win conference championship and make it to the playoffs and almost make it to the championship game. He's done it all but cash in. He's done it all but the last step. And if you want to say, the rivalry, yeah, he's got to be better. But that's just one aspect. He's been to the national championship game, been to the playoffs 3 times. This is an accomplished guy. He just hasn't made that one last accomplishment happen. And I believe he will. And I also believe that Stu Mandel is a Ohio State hater from Cincinnati. And we all know some people from Cincinnati that just have a really weird issue with Ohio State. I don't know why that is. I'm from Northeast Ohio. I don't know many people from Cincinnati or from that region, and I don't understand what that is down there. But there seems to be a whole pocket of them that really dislike Ohio State. And I remember this surfacing a couple years back, maybe, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, when we did that home and home against Cincinnati. And it was the first time I had really heard of this, because I just kind of figured everybody else around the state, many of us went to different schools and not Ohio State, went to MAC schools and still always rooted for Ohio State. That's who we grew up with. That's our team, right? So it seems like Cincinnati, there is a different flavor in the air over there. And what's really funny is Stu Mandel's partner, Bruce Feldman, they have a show together. Bruce is from Southern California, and he grew up an Ohio State fan. And then you got Stu Mandel, who's from Ohio, and he's clearly always got this little tinge in his voice. He just doesn't like Ohio State. It's very apparent. It oozes out of him. And he didn't go to Cincinnati, though. He went to Northwestern. So I don't get it. But if someone could explain that Cincinnati hate of Ohio State to me, I would love to hear the reasoning why. It seems like they're the only pocket of the state that really dislikes our major state school. I don't get it. And that'll do me for tonight. Sorry for the abbreviated Chuck on Bucksters tonight, guys. We took the kids out to dinner, and I'm stuffed, man. I'm stuffed and I'm tired, so that's just what it is. But we got some good shows coming up this weekend. We got Luke Williams from the Tailgate Podcast going to join me for Saturday's show. And this weekend, Sunday's show is going to feature our man, Eli Lee, class of 2025 linebacker from Akron-Hoban. And we're going to talk all about the state of Hoban, the ridiculous amount of talent on that team right now, and the class of 2025 that Eli Lee is a member of, and he is going to be a good one. You're going to talk about a diamond in the rough, man. This dude is one. So that's what we got to come up for coming up this weekend, and I cannot wait to get to those ones. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Chuck on Bucks out.